Something in you refused to die. And that's why, even without understanding, even without strength, even without being able to explain it to anyone, your life began to change at the exact moment you thought there was nothing left inside you. Because there is something in you, something ancient, silent, indestructible, that no fall ever erased, that no abandonment ever disfigured, that no sharp word ever reduced to dust. And it is exactly this, that small flame no one noticed, that resistance you yourself mistook for weakness, that became the turning point you didn't see. You thought you were at the end. You thought that person had taken everything. You thought the love you gave, the surrender, the swallowed silence, the repeated effort, the endless waiting, and the dreams you held with both hands had left you empty, with nothing left, with no way back. But there was something there, something that does not die, something that never died, something you tried to bury so you wouldn't feel anymore, so you wouldn't bleed anymore, so you wouldn't have to face the truth that loving too much destroys you slowly. But what you called destruction was an opening. You looked back so many times trying to understand where you lost yourself, where love became a burden, where care became dependency, where companionship became absence, where promises turned into silence. And every time you tried to find an answer, what you found was pain, scars, a piece of yourself scattered along the way. It was so much giving that you forgot your own name, so many concessions that you became transparent, so much hope that you turned into the shadow of who you wanted to be. But there was something. There always was. A core, a calling, a will that did not bow, a strength that did not surrender. And without you noticing, it was that part of you that held your chest when everything tightened. It was that part of you that kept your feet on the ground when life tried to pull you into darkness. It was that part that pushed you out of bed when your soul was too heavy to rise. It wasn't motivation. It wasn't optimism. It wasn't blind faith. It was that part of you, the part that survived what destroyed so many others. You thought it was stubbornness. In truth, it was the soul's instinct to survive. And that instinct began to grow precisely when you thought you were losing what you had, because something inside you understood before you did. What you called love was not love. What you called a partner was not presence. What you called destiny was emotional dependence. What you called connection was the thread that kept you tied to what drained you. And what is not true dies sooner or later. It was in that moment, when the lie fell, when the illusion cracked, when the fantasy collapsed, that the indestructible part of you woke up, and without warning, without asking for permission, it began to reorganize everything. Your feelings began to change, not because you wanted them to, but because that force inside you began to pull back everything that belonged to you, your dignity, your clarity, your ability to see, your worth, your identity. Did life try to destroy you? Yes, but something in you refused to disappear. And this is where the story changes, because there are two types of pain, the pain that breaks you and the pain that reveals you. You spent far too long believing your pain was the first kind, but in reality, it was preparing you for the second. Right now, as you read this, there is an invisible thread pulling you away from what diminished you. Something is being torn from you, and something is being returned. Something is being undone, and something is being remade. Life is not punishing you. It is positioning you. It is breaking what kept you captive. It is removing what no longer aligns with who you are becoming. And you feel it. Deep down, you feel it. Something is shifting. Something has moved. Something that seemed dead has begun to pulse again. And you don't know it yet. But this is the force that will define the entire second half of your life. Because nothing, absolutely nothing, can stop the rebirth of someone who refused to die on the inside. And the question now is not, why did you suffer so much? The real question is, what will be born in you after this suffering? The answer is coming. Stay until the end. You thought suffering was punishment. You thought you were paying the price for loving wrong, for trusting too much, for insisting where no one else would stay. You thought you were harvesting failure, when in truth, you were walking through the ground where the old needed to die so the new could finally breathe. And here is the truth you avoided for so long. The pain didn't come to destroy you. It came to reveal you. The person you believed you were never existed. That version who accepted crumbs, who begged for attention, who pleaded for affection, who shrank to fit into someone else's silence, was a survival version, not an essential one. It was a version built out of lack, out of emotional hunger, out of the fear of abandonment. It was a version created when you still didn't have the strength to be whole, but now you do. What is happening inside you is not loss, it is an upgrade. You are becoming someone who no longer accepts what hurts, someone who no longer calls love what empties you, someone who no longer sacrifices themselves to keep close those who never knew how to stay, someone who finally understands that reciprocity is not a luxury, it's a foundation. And when this awareness is born, everything changes. People change, relationships change, priorities change, the way you look at yourself changes. And that is why you are feeling this strange shift, this sensation that something ended but something began, this silence inside your chest that mixes relief with fear, this impression that you lost what you wanted but gained what you needed. You are leaving behind who you were, and it hurts, because evolving hurts. But it hurts much more to remain where your soul no longer fits, and you stayed in that place for far too long. That is why now life is accelerating everything. It is removing people, cutting ties, breaking illusions, erasing excuses, exposing truths, revealing intentions. It's not bad luck, it's cleansing. And cleansing hurts because it cleans by friction. It cleans by stripping. It cleans by scrubbing what you tried to hide. It cleans by illuminating what you preferred not to see. But life never takes something from you without putting something in its place. And what it is preparing is greater than what you lost. What is coming is so deep, it demands space. And that is why everything needed to collapse first. Deep down, you were not happy there. You were only afraid to leave. And fear is not a home. What is not yours begins to weigh. And what is yours begins to call. And that calling is echoing now. You can feel it in your skin, in your chest, in the thought that won't leave, in the courage that is rising inside you without you knowing where it comes from. This courage, the one growing slowly, silently, steadily, is the announcement of what awaits you. It signals that you are close to a turning point you never imagined. You are not just walking away from someone. You are meeting yourself again. And that by itself already changes the entire story. But this is still not the main revelation. The true revelation, the one that will open your eyes in a way nothing will ever close them again, is coming. You didn't notice it, but while you were trying to save someone, you were dying. While you were trying to keep a relationship alive, you were dimming your own light. While you were trying to convince someone of your worth, you were forgetting your own. And now comes the revelation your soul has been waiting for. The pain you felt was never about losing the other. It was about losing yourself. You didn't cry because of love. You cried for the identity that dissolved as you tried to be enough for someone incapable of recognizing you. You cried for the version of yourself that knelt for a crumb. You cried for the dignity sacrificed in the name of a fantasy. You cried because, deep down, you knew it was never love. It was attachment. And that truth hurts. It hurts because it exposes. It hurts because it cuts. It hurts because it forces you to admit that you placed yourself in that position. But this pain is sacred. It is the pain that gives you back to yourself. You spent years believing you needed to be chosen. Now you are learning you needed to choose yourself. You spent years believing you needed to be loved. Now you are discovering you needed to love yourself back. You spent years believing you needed to be seen. Now you are realizing you needed to see your own value. And something inside you, that indestructible core, always knew this. It was that core that refused to die when everything collapsed. It was that core that kept the flame alive when your heart begged you to give up. It was that core that held your story together when you thought you had no chapters left to live. That core is your essence. It is your true identity. It is the part of you that no longer negotiates what you deserve. It is the part of you that will never return to what destroyed you. It is the part of you that learned the difference between insisting and sinking. And it is exactly because of this that everything changed. Because someone who returns after surviving a pain like this never returns the same. You are entering a new phase, a phase that will not be built on emotional scarcity, but on awareness. Not on fear, but on clarity. Not on desperation, but on discernment. What you lived taught you what you will no longer tolerate. It taught you that strength is not about enduring everything. It's about knowing when to walk away. It taught you that love does not hurt when it is reciprocal. It taught you that presence does not require sacrifice. It taught you that whoever wants you shows it. And it taught you something even greater. You no longer need to beg for what you deserve to receive in abundance. And that is what makes you dangerous now. Dangerous to those who underestimated you. Dangerous to those who thought you would never wake up. Dangerous to those who believed you would always be the same. Dangerous to the older versions of yourself that still try to pull you back. Because you were reborn, and no one can control someone who has been reborn. But there is still one last point, the strongest of all, the final revelation, the sentence that will mark you, the truth that turns pain into destiny. We've reached the point that changes everything, the point that explains why nothing managed to bury you, why nothing managed to break you, why nothing managed to rip out what exists deepest inside you. Here is the final truth. You did not just rebirth now. You have always been rebirth. Life tried to bury you so many times that you confused rebirth with survival. You thought you were just resisting. You thought you were just breathing. You thought you were just waiting for time to pass. But what you were doing, in truth, was strengthening the root of a story that was never over. You are not what happened to you. You are what remains standing after everything that happened. And this is what almost no one understands. The pain didn't break you. The pain carved you. It stripped away excess, stripped away illusions, stripped away dependencies, stripped away people who never intended to stay, stripped away desires that were pulling you away from yourself. It left you only with the essential. And the essential is exactly what makes you indestructible. You are not being reborn by accident. You are being reborn because it became impossible for you to remain where you were. You are being reborn because your soul no longer accepts emotional prisons. You are being reborn because your pain became a compass. You are being reborn because your consciousness woke up. You are being reborn because a greater purpose is calling you forward. And now you know, nothing you lost was truly yours. Everything that is being reborn inside you always was. Life removed what was taking up space. Now it will return what has value. You are entering the phase where you no longer need to chase. Because whoever has essence attracts. Whoever has truth calls. Whoever has been reborn expands. And from now on, something deep happens. You no longer want those who hurt you. You no longer desire what diminished you. You no longer seek what drains you. You no longer accept what invalidates you. Your pattern changed. Your worth changed. Your energy changed. Your future changed. And all of this because something in you refused to die. And that is what makes you someone rare. You are not the end of the story. You are the beginning of a new life. From today on, everything you live will be built by a version of you that does not bend, does not beg, does not shrink, does not dissolve. A version of you that knows love is not pain, reciprocity is not a favor, dignity is not a luxury, and presence is not a crumb. You became someone who does not return to what destroyed you. And that changes everything. Because when you finally understand who you really are, life reorganizes itself to match your greatness. Now, breathe deeply. Feel what is being born inside you. This is the beginning of everything you deserved for so long. And that is finally coming. If this spoke to you, don't keep it to yourself. Comment, "I was reborn," and share it. You never know who might be saved by these words.